Think about the last time you poured your heart, your bank account, and your entire schedule into a woman, only to watch her grow cold, distant, or worse, leave you for a guy who didn't even seem to try. It's a gut-wrenching realization that makes you want to throw the whole game away. You did everything the experts and the movies told you to do. You were the shoulder to cry on, the guy who always answered the phone on the first ring, the one who planned the elaborate five-star dinners, and the one who sacrificed his own hobbies just to be available for her. And yet, here you are, sitting in the wreckage of a relationship that failed despite your maximum effort. The truth is a jagged pill to swallow. 80% of what you're doing right now to attract or keep a woman is a total waste of your life. In fact, for most of you, that 80% is the very thing killing the attraction. You're working against yourself because you've been sold a lie that effort equals value. In the real world, in the raw, unspoken world of female psychology, excessive effort is often seen as a lack of options. It smells like desperation, and desperation is the ultimate aphrodisiac killer. If you're tired of feeling like a backup plan or a nice guy who finishes last, you need to stop playing by the rules of a game that was rigged from the start. Most men grow up with this internal blueprint that says if you want a result, you just grind harder. You do it in the gym, you do it at the office, and you do it in school. It's a linear equation. More input equals more output. But dating isn't a factory, and attraction isn't a reward for good behavior. When you apply that grind mentality to a woman, you become a performer. You're no longer a man, you're a service provider. You're constantly auditioning for the role of her boyfriend, her husband, or her protector. And here's the kicker. When someone is always auditioning for you, you eventually lose interest in the play. You start to take them for granted. You stop respecting them because they've shown you they have no boundaries of their own. If you're feeling that sting of being undervalued right now, it's because you've taught her that your time and your energy are cheap. You've flooded the market with your presence, and you've crashed your own value. This is the 80% trap. It's the texts you send just to check in, the gifts you buy to smooth over a rough patch, and the way you apologize for things that aren't even your fault, just to keep the peace. None of that builds attraction. It builds a dynamic where she is the prize and you are the fan. If this is hitting home and you're starting to see the cracks in your own approach, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. We don't do feel-good fluff here. We do the hard, uncomfortable truth that actually moves the needle in your life. Join the circle because the path to becoming a high-value man isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right 20% and letting the rest go. Now let's look at why that 20% is so damn elusive. Most men are terrified of silence. They're terrified of a woman being bored or, heaven forbid, unhappy for 5 minutes. So they fill that space with effort. They perform, they dance, they explain themselves. But attraction lives in the space between the effort. It lives in the mystery of what you're doing when you're not with her. It lives in the tension of her wondering if you're thinking about her as much as she's thinking about you. When you occupy 100% of her mental space by being constantly available, you kill the tension. You kill the desire. You become a piece of furniture, predictable, reliable, and eventually invisible. The 20% that actually matters, the stuff that keeps her up at night, the stuff that makes her text you first, is rooted in your own frame and your own mission. It's about being a man who has a world so interesting that she wants to earn a place in it. Think about the high-value men you know. Do they spend 4 hours debating which restaurant she'd like best? No, they pick a spot, tell her to be there at 8, and then they go back to their work. That's it. That's the 20%. It's leadership. It's decisiveness. It's having a backbone. Most men waste 80% of their energy trying to avoid conflict or prevent her from being upset. They walk on eggshells. But a woman doesn't want to date a man who walks on eggshells. She wants to date a man who can walk through a storm and keep his head up. When you sacrifice your boundaries to make her life easier, you're signaling that you can be bought. You're signaling that your self-respect is for sale for the price of her attention. And once she realizes that, she can never truly desire you because she can't look up to someone she can manipulate. Let's get into the sacrifice trap. This is where a lot of guys lose the plot. They think that by giving up their gym time, their friends, or their career goals to spend quality time with her, they are showing commitment. To a man, that's logic. To a woman's subconscious, that's a red flag. If you can be pulled away from your mission that easily, you aren't a leader, you're a follower. And a woman's biological hardwiring is looking for a man who can provide a stable, strong direction, not a man who changes his direction every time she frowns. You think you're being romantic, but you're actually being unstable. The 20% of your actions that carry the most weight are the moments where you say no, the moments where you prioritize your growth over her temporary comfort. It sounds counterintuitive, but your no is actually more attractive than your yes. It proves you have a spine, it proves you have a life. It creates the polarity that attraction requires. Without that tension, the relationship turns into a flat, boring friendship where she eventually says, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. The 80% of trash effort is also fueled by the fear of loss. You're doing all that extra work because you don't think you're enough, just standing there. You feel like you have to earn her presence every single day through acts of service and emotional labor. But if you don't believe you're a catch without the bells and whistles, why should she? This is the core of the performance mindset. You're trying to convince her to like you through a series of good guy tokens. Look, I bought flowers. Look, I listened to your drama for 3 hours. Look, I'm different from the other guys. This is beta game at its finest. It's a bribe. And the problem with bribes is that the price always goes up. Eventually you run out of energy, you run out of money, or you run out of patience, and the whole thing collapses because there was never any real, raw attraction, only a transaction. The shift you need to make is moving from how do I make her happy to how do I maintain my excellence. When your focus is on your own excellence, the 20% of your interactions with her become high impact. When you do spend time with her, you're fully present, you're grounded, and you're masculine because you've spent the rest of your day winning your own battles. You're not looking to her to validate your worth or tell you you're a good boy. You've already validated yourself. This creates a gravitational pull. She starts to wonder about you. She starts to compete for your time. This is the only way the dynamic stays healthy. You have to be willing to let that 80% of useless, people-pleasing behavior die. You have to be okay with her being a little bit uncertain about you. Uncertainty creates room for her imagination, and her imagination is the most powerful tool for attraction you have. If you explain everything, do everything, and provide everything, you leave her nothing to do. You've taken her job away. Think about the validation loop. You text her, she doesn't reply for 2 hours, so you send a follow-up or a joke to break the ice. That's part of the 80% of waste. In those 2 hours, she was forming an opinion of you. By double texting, you confirmed the opinion that you have nothing better to do than wait for her. You just wasted your energy and lowered your status. The 20% move, you don't text back at all. You go to the gym, you finish your project, you live your life. When she finally does text, she realizes you weren't waiting. That tiny shift in energy does more for your attraction than 1,000 good morning beautiful texts ever could. It's about strategic indifference, not being a jerk, but being a man who is genuinely preoccupied with his own greatness. When you stop pouring energy into what doesn't work, you create a vacuum. And human nature abhors a vacuum. She will feel the space you've created, and if the foundation is there, she will move to fill it. She will start asking you where you are. She will start trying to please you. This is where true masculine power resides, not in the ability to do the most for a woman, but in the ability to be the man who is worth doing things for. Stop being the guy who does 80% of the work for 20% of the results. Flip the script. Focus on the 20% of actions that build your frame, your mystery, and your mission. The rest is just noise that's keeping you from the life and the respect you actually deserve. Walking away from the 80% isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. It's about recognizing that your energy is a finite resource, and you've been burning it on things that only serve to bury your true self. Reclaim that energy, build your kingdom, and watch how the 20% takes care of the rest.